joining me from Maxim, Thomas Scrimgeour. Kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Good to be here.
It is a nerve-wracking time, particularly for wordsmiths such as you and I, that one day the machines will be taking over. And one of the things that I have learnt in the last 12 months is that they can do a pretty good job with the machine learning that the AI, that the ChatGPT and other iterations of it is actually cleverer and more articulate than I am, and honestly, that makes me a little bit nervous. Do we have reason to be nervous, in your opinion, Thomas?
I mean, it's good to be wary and cautious, but also optimistic and hopeful. These tools are incredibly powerful, and sometimes I think people are judging them on quite a harsh scale, where they see something written by ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, it's a bit boring, isn't it?" And they seem to forget that 3 years ago these things were launched.
Yeah.
They're very, very new tech, and so their level of growth over that time is quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
So certainly, I think we are in for a big change over the next sort of 5 to 10 years because of these new technologies.
And some of the job losses may come as a surprise. I thought that the machines would first come for the likes of me, old Luddites that can't really figure out how to use their smartphones. But actually, it may be for the bright young things, the mid-level programmers, and some of the techie people. The machines may come for them first in some ways.
Yeah, though I do have bad news for you, Andrew.
Sorry.
There was a case, I don't know, a couple of months back, where an Australian radio company did have an AI DJ
Yeah.
that they were running for a while before confessing to. But yeah, I think it is valuable for people to think about what sorts of jobs and industries, or even what sort of tasks, are likely to be automated.
Yeah.
Historically, when we thought about technological development, it was blue collar jobs. It was jobs done with people's hands where machines took over. Here is one of the first times we have a technology where sort of intellectual work done with computers, is being automated. Probably for people who have experience,
Yep.
they'll be able to learn to do these tools, and they will be a multiplier of effectiveness. If you already have this knowledge that the tools don't have, but they help you work faster, it's a great opportunity to improve your output. But entry-level jobs are where things are most threatened. And like you say, word-rich or data-rich industries, programming is one that could have some effect, but young law grads as well.
Yep.
So certainly those entry-level roles look to become much, much more competitive.
And with respect to entry-level programmers and law grads, honestly, they could find something more interesting to do when the robots take their job. Because, I mean, a lot of it is pretty basic data entry type stuff. It's repetitive work that perhaps the robots could do a better job at, and possibly a more accurate job at than us with human error, right?
Oh, absolutely. And so if we take the example of junior lawyers,
Yep.
often historically how those roles worked is you get a young law graduate who has learned a bit in the classroom but needs to learn how to work in the real world. And senior lawyers needed people to go through and pull cases off the shelves and write summaries that the senior lawyer could use their experience and judgment to work from.
Yep.
That can be automated away with some promise now already, and increasingly will be so. The challenge is, how do you get experienced senior lawyers
Yeah.
if there aren't as many jobs for junior lawyers? But on the flip side, you raise a good point about there are all sorts of interesting things humans can do in the world. Work is something that is imbued with dignity. From a Christian framework, thinking about in the garden, Adam and Eve worked. But if some types of work are automated, there are always more new, interesting things humans can do that provide value, whether or not they are junior law grad jobs.
Now, I used to think that as well, but then I thought, well, we'll get rid of the boring jobs and we'll just have more room for creativity. But actually, AI is pretty creative in terms of its prose and its poetry and its artistic expression, even in the creative realm, as it were. AI may be doing a better job than us humans.
Yeah, or certainly a functional job, which takes away a lot of the income from, creative type industries, particularly those sort of creative business type hybrid roles, graphic designers and advertisers. People haven't seen the latest iteration of Google's AI, video generation software
Yep.
now includes dialogue. You can put in text, people will have conversations, and it's pretty realistic if you aren't looking too closely. It would catch people out. So a lot of these creative roles are also threatened in a way that is surprising. Historically, we thought that was the purely human realm, but there may be less money in those. But that raises interesting questions about why we do art, why humans create. I think there will always be a place for the human made, precisely because we value that which is truly human. These AI tools are powerful tools. They will change things, but they are not humans. So I think there will always be something for the distinctly human.
And I mean, there's a good case for that, but it's getting increasingly difficult to tell the difference. You know, was this AI generated or was this purely human involved? Is there an ethical question around this? Should it be like the warnings on our cigarette packets? If anything has AI involved with it, that there should be a disclaimer which says that there was an AI involvement with it. Although, honestly, just about everything that you read in newspapers would have to include that disclaimer, it would seem.
Yeah, well, it certainly raises interesting questions about how we do things like disclosure. Part of the challenge will be these AI tools, as they become ubiquitous. One of the things we've been saying at Maxim is that it will become like electricity.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, and we don't even notice it day to day. It's not that long ago. My grandmother grew up in New Zealand on a farm, was not in desperate poverty, but did not have electricity.
Yeah.
So that's 2 generations ago. People were ordinarily living without electricity out in rural areas. These things change really quickly. And so it's good to think about, well, how do we ethically use AI and disclose it? And I think if it is being used currently, people should be disclosing it. But as it becomes increasingly ubiquitous, there won't be spheres of life that are really free from it,
Yep.
unless you want to disclose, I made this without any AI input. Maybe that's where the disclosure will
And
end
hey,
up
maybe
being.
that's where the value added is. Maybe that becomes this bespoke. Maybe that purely human tasks are assigned more value in an AI world. But yeah, we'll wait and see in that regard. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the impact that this is having in education, and I'm not just talking about Spellbots and Grammarly and the like, but the fact that AI-generated content in the education sector is, creeping its way into a lot of activity. Will this affect the way new generations of people will learn at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels?
Absolutely. And I think to think about the interaction between AI and education, we need to have both our optimistic white hat and our pessimistic black hat on at the same time. It's both a crisis and an opportunity. One of the great kind of promises of this sort of technology in education is that we've always talked about classroom sizes and teachers being able to give attention to students.
Yep.
Some forms of teaching can be done by software that with limitless personalization in a way that older types of software didn't have. The challenge is, particularly with the generative AI that writes, the classic ChatGPT, if students aren't learning to do the basic mechanics of thinking about how to construct and write sentences, what does that do for their ability to process, read, understand, and wrestle with meaning? And so I think we should be looking for ways to do very, very dependent on AI learning, and at the same time do some very, very independent manual hands-on. There's a split. We can't ignore these tools. We can't pretend they won't change things,
Yep.
but they're not a silver bullet either. They come with risks and downsides. And actually, there is always going to be value for the analog in childhood, sending kids outside to play with sticks, to throw rocks, to dig holes.
Yeah.
To do all those manual things as well, because that's a big part of learning when you're young.
And keeping the white hat on, as it were, is there an aspect whereby not too many years from now, to be able to work with AI as a tool in the workplace will be an essential requirement for some jobs? If you aren't able to understand and effectively interact with AI, that you won't be shortlisted for some careers in the near future?
Oh, absolutely. So many roles will, even if there is a human job there, be interacting with AI. And we've been talking about what's called generative AI, ChatGPT, which writes text and generates images. The big development that's on the horizon is what's called agentic AI. That is AI tools that receive a bunch of data and then make decisions.
Yep.
Think about stock trading as an industry which could have AI agents. There's a lot of information there making predictions about where they think the market is going. There is no reason in principle a piece of computer software, an AI agent, can't do that really effectively. But these will be part of larger businesses who still have to take legal responsibility, because someone has to be at some level. You can't imprison an AI when they commit fraud. So there needs to be some human somewhere in the process. Otherwise, we're all at the mercy of these AI tools.
The robots set up their own Bitcoin and insider trading to fuel their warfare on mankind. Yeah, no, I can see the trailer for that movie already. Thomas, thank you very much for your insight on this. Good to keep the white and the black hat perspectives on it. Thanks for the work that you do at Maxim. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.